many already? Out of 18 people, only 15 are ready. So I hope the three others that did not click the raise hand button, it will be ready the soonest before we will start. Okay, so once again, good afternoon. Wala nang papumpik-pumpik pa. For our lesson this afternoon, we will have our first grammar lesson. We will have active and passive voice. Now, question. Are you familiar with active and passive voice? Kindly raise your hand. Since your cameras are open, you can just wave. Who among you here familiar with active and passive voice? Wave. None? Meaning to say this is your first time to have this lesson? Okay, Marinel. Okay, good. I can see a number. So in this lesson, we have here the following objectives at the end of the session. Um, you should be able to distinguish the difference between active and passive voice. So what makes the two different? Second, construct meaningful sentences in active and passive voice. So you have to write your own. We will be transforming sentences too. And then, yeah, convert sentences from active to passive voice and vice versa. So let us start. What is voice? So let's begin the discussion by asking the class. If you don't know the answer for this, you can always go to your friend Google, right? So what is voice? Is it the sound coming from our mouth when we speak? According to Maria Nakaya, voice is the opposite of girls. So with that, I kick her out in the room. No, just kidding. So yeah, diba? Very ang taba ng utak. So what is voice? Is it the opposite of girls? Is it the sound coming from your mouth when you talk? What else? In grammar. Okay, okay. I can now see an answer from Puli. But you may send your answers to her. Voice in grammar is a form of a verb indicating the relation between the participants in a narrated event, subject, object, and the event itself. With the credits, Google. Ira, in grammar, the voice of a verb describes the relationship between the action that the verb expresses and the participants. Yes, your answers are correct. So, in short, a voice describes whether the subject of a clause is the performer or the doer. In short, the voice will tell us whether the subject is the one doing the action, it is the performer, it is the one performing, or the subject is the one receiving an action coming from a verb. Okay? So there are two types of voice. We have active voice and passive voice. So what is active voice? From the word active, meaning to say it is the one. Sorry, I lost my presentation. If we say active, meaning to say it is the one receiving or performing. What do you think? If we say active voice, the subject is the one performing or receiving something. It is the one performing the action. It is the one, yeah, doing an action. So let's wait for my presentation to get back. Can you now see it? Yes, that's correct. So if you say active, the subject is the one doing an action. That's why it is called active. Diba? You have when we say you have to keep your lifestyle or you have to be active in certain stuff. So I mean to say you're really doing something, right? Okay, so let's check these examples. I prepared three examples for us to see what exactly is an active voice. Let's cooperate. Let's wait. Okay, in most English sentences with an action verb, the subject performs the action denoted by the verb. And always remember, always remember, active voice is considered stronger because it has fewer words and it clearly presents or show shows who exactly did the action, di ba? Very short lang siya, and then beginning sa words, the subject, i-clarify siya, or it is clarifying who exactly is doing the subject. So that is why it is said that active voice is stronger compared to passive voice. Anyway, you will be learning that one later. So let's check these examples. Monkeys adore bananas. Can you tell me what is the subject in this sentence? The subject is
Monkey.
monkeys. Okay, we are talking about the monkeys, and the subject here is the one performing or doing something. The monkeys adore bananas, so it's the adoration done by the monkeys. And what is the receiver in this sentence? What is the receiver? It's
Banana.
the
Banana.
bananas. Correct. Second, the cashier counted the money. So in this sentence, cashier is our subject. The cashier is counting. If you say counting, it is an action, right? And what word in this sentence receives the action done by the cashier?
Money.
Three.
Counted. I mean, what action? What is the action?
Counted.
Counted.
Counted. So what is who is or what is receiving the action of counting? It is
Money.
Money.
B. That's correct. So cashier here is our subject doing the action. Therefore, this is active voice. Lastly, the dog chased the squirrel. In this sentence, the subject is obviously the dog, right? We're talking about the dog, and the dog here is the one doing an action, which is the chasing of the squirrel. So the action is chase done by the dog, and the receiver of the action is the squirrel. Any questions or clarifications about this? Questions, clarifications? None so far? Okay. Now let's move on to the second voice, which is passive voice. So passive voice is the opposite of active voice. If you say passive, the receiver of the action becomes the subject this time. So it's a shift now of roles. Okay? Now this time, the subject is not anymore the doer, but the subject is now the receiver. Now let's check these examples. Bananas are adored by monkeys. If you can see, these are the same sentences. I have shown it earlier. Diba? Monkeys adore bananas. So this time, since you shift siya or transform into passive voice, the subject now becomes the receiver. So bananas are adored by monkeys. So the bananas are not doing anything, right? This is the subject. They are not doing any, but in this sentence, they are only receiving the action from the monkeys. So second, the money was counted by the cashier. Previously, diba, the sentence was the cashier counted the money. Now this time, since this is passive voice, the subject should be the one receiving, right? So it will become the money was counted by the cashier. So it's the money not doing anything, but only receiving an action coming from the cashier, which is the counting. Next, lastly, the squirrel was chased by the dog. So can you tell me what is the subject this time? It's the
Squirrel.
squirrel. Correct. So the squirrel was chased by the dog. So the squirrel, the subject here is the receiver of the action, which is the act of chasing done by the dog. Any questions or clarifications about this voice? None. Now it's very easy to identify what is active voice, what is passive voice. Would you agree? Very easy, right? Very, very easy. But the real challenge is the transformation of sentences from active voice to passive voice and vice versa. Now the question here is how to change a sentence in passive voice and active voice. You might be thinking, simple lang, we will just shift the subject, making sure that the subject will become the performer and then the subject will become the receiver. As simple as that. No, we have to take note or we have to check the tense used in the sentence. Okay? So we have a number of tenses, right? We have simple present, simple past, simple future, present progressive, so on and so forth. So let's have a review of the tense and then let's check the pattern. Please do take note of the pattern on how to transform active voice to passive voice and vice versa if the tense is this and that. Okay? So let's begin with simple present. Simple present is used in referring to things that are done universally or habitually, right? or things that are simply happening at the present. So when we write simple present in active voice, we will have subject plus base form of the verb and then direct object. Now if you will have simple present in passive voice, we will have direct object plus linking verb plus the past participle of the verb, not the base form, okay? Followed by and then the subject. Second, simple past. Simple past is used in referring to things that happened in the past, right? So what's the pattern? We will use we will have the subject first, followed by the past form of the verb, and then the direct object. Now, if we are to write a passive voice in simple past, we will have direct object plus, of course, linking verbs in past tense or past forms, then past participle of the verb, and then by and the subject. Next, simple future. It is the use of will plus the base form of the word. So will dance, right? Will climb. Will will cook. Will eat, right? So that's an example of simple future. Things or like actions you are expecting to happen in, or you're expecting or to happen in the future. So that's simple future. Now in writing active voice, simple future tense, we will have this pattern. Subject plus will plus base form of the verb plus the direct object. Next, passive voice. So for passive voice, still as always, as you can see, I think there's a pattern na diba? Basta passive voice, we will begin always with the direct object. Because the direct object becomes the subject, if it's a passive voice, the subject is the receiver. Receiver or recipient of the action, in other words, is direct object. So direct object plus will be plus past participle plus by and then the subject. So you now have a screenshot of this. Can you move to the next slide? Okay. Next, present progressive. So if say present progressive or present continuous, it is referring to an action, an event, or something that is presently or continuously being done or happening, right? So for active voice of present progressive, we will have subject plus thinking verb plus the ing form of the verb. What are the examples for ing form of the verbs? We have running, dancing, cooking, talking, eating, and so on and so forth, plus the direct object. Now for passive voice, present progressive, we will have direct object plus thinking verbs plus being. Okay? So if progressive na gani ang tense in transforming the active voice to passive voice, do not forget to use the word being. So the pattern will become direct object plus thinking verb plus being plus past participle of the verb followed by and the subject. Next, past progressive. Past progressive is used in referring to something, an event or an action that um, already happened in the past, but that action or event took for a while, meaning it happened for a period of time, but that's done already. It happened. Okay? So that's why it is named as past progressive because some time in the past that continuously happened. But it has ended already. So past progressive. What's the pattern for active voice? We will use subject plus past forms of linking verbs, and then the ing form of the verbs, and then the direct object. For passive, we will use um, direct object, past forms of the linking verbs, plus being. Once again, never forget to use being if it is if it is continuous tense or progressive tense, and then followed by and subject. And lastly, finally, this is the last tense. Future progressive tense. When do we use this? We use future progressive tense in referring to actions or events that will certainly or that are expected to happen in the future. And that action or event will take for um, a little while. Meaning to say, medyo taas-taas siya ng panahon. It will happen in the future continuously or progressively. So what's the pattern? For active voice, we will use subject plus will plus be plus the ing form of the verb and then the direct object. For passive voice, of course, direct object plus will be plus being plus the past participle and then by and the subject. Any questions or clarifications about the tenses? And the patterns, of course, in transforming active voice to passive voice and vice versa. Any questions? If you don't have any questions, if everything is clear, kindly send 7 here in the public chat. Okay, let me see who are still listening. Okay, great. So, let me just end the discussion about tenses and active voice with these important reminders. The sentence that uses the active voice is stronger. So I think I mentioned this earlier. The sentence that uses the active voice is stronger because it uses fewer words. Shorter siya, di ba? Just like that first sentence I gave, monkeys adore bananas. So it's a 3-word sentence only. Unlike the passive voice, if you will convert that one into passive voice, that will become bananas are adored by monkeys, which is already um, lengthier compared to that active voice sentence. But always remember, it is never incorrect to use passive voice. Both are correct. It's just that active voice is stronger because it has fewer words and it shows clearly who is performing the action. And lastly, of course, can you tell me what is the voice used in this sentence? The piano was played. What is the voice of this sentence? Is this active or passive voice? Active or passive? No one is answering. The piano was played. Is this active or passive? Let's look at the subject. This is passive. So it's good that you can still identify sentence voice even if there is no doer. So sometimes the doer of the action is omitted in passive voice sentences. But still, we can identify the sentence whether it's active or passive. As long as you can identify the subject. Is the subject doing the action or is the subject who's doing an action? Okay? So, are we ready to test ourselves? Again, are we ready to test ourselves? Are we ready? We know one is answering.
Yes, teacher.
Okay, great. So since we are now ready, let us answer this. I will be showing you sentences and your task is to identify the tenses. So you tell me, is it simple tense? Is it future tense? Is it progressive tense? And then the next thing you will do is to rewrite the given sentence into its opposite voice. So let's start with the first sentence. I am expecting all of you to answer or to share your answers here in the public chat. Okay? So wait for my go signal before you send your answers. I will be counting up to 5. That's the time that you can send your answers. Are we clear with that? Okay. She was singing a lullaby. What is the tense used in this sentence? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Past progressive? Okay, the answer is yes, exactly. It's past progressive. Now let us transform the sentence into its opposite voice. So this is active voice. So you have to write its passive voice version. Start like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Send now. Okay, a lullaby was being sung by her. A lullaby was sung by her. So which is the correct answer? The answer is a lullaby was being sung by her. So I think I made it clear a while ago that once the sentence is continuous in form, if there is ing, when we transform that one into passive voice, we should always use being. So the answer is was being sung. Okay? So next, let's have the second sentence. Drew typed the letters. Five. What is the tense used in the sentence? Five, four, three, two, one, go. Okay, let's check. The answer is simple past. Exactly. So kindly transform this sentence. Okay, we have an answer now from Miles. Still, send your answers. How do we convert or transform this one into its opposite voice? The answer is the letters were typed by text. Correct, everyone got it right. Now let's have the last one. Sam will keep her promise. What tense is used in the sentence? Five, four, three, two, one, send. Kindly send. Sam will keep her promise. What is the answer? Simple future. The answer is yes, it's simple future. Now kindly transform this one into passive voice. Five, four, three, two, one, go. Her promise will be kept by Sam. Let's check. The answer is yes, her or the promise will be kept by Sam. Okay, sige. So, since I think all of you got it right, any questions or clarifications? Questions or clarifications? I want to hear your answers. Any questions or clarifications, class? Okay, so kindly go to your Silid Aralan and answer the quiz, active voice and passive voice. You have until 2 p.m. to answer this one. But your next class, di ba, will start at exactly 1:55. Okay, so you have until 2 extension. So you have until 2 p.m. to answer the quiz. Be sure to submit this tab because at exactly 2, the quiz will be closed and I will never or I will no longer be reopening portals once it's due already. Kindly check if you can now access the quiz. Hello, class. What number are you now? Hello, what number are you now? 7. Okay, thank you. Please answer in capital letters. So those who have naka-answer in capital letters, don't worry, I will be rechecking it. Thank you.
Appeal ang sentences, sure.
Yes, for the sentences, have it in capital letters also. But okay lang, if you're done answering some of the items, I will recheck it.